Before I drink the final dram out of a bottle, I like to decide if it's worth replacing or not. Today, I'm going to do that on camera with you. So, let's do this. Welcome to Whisky Riffs. If you're new here, I'm Kevin. Thank you for stopping by and watching this special episode about what I do before a bottle goes empty and how I decide whether I'm going to replace that bottle or not. Now today I have 5 bottles of Glenmorangie Expressions. Some are very close to empty, and I figured I better do this episode before I go ahead and drink those, or I'll feel really guilty that I didn't get them on camera. So this is the wrap up for my near empty bottles, and I'll even pull out a 6th bottle to taste at the end. If you've watched my videos, you probably know what that is. Let me know in the comments if you've guessed that already. Also at the end, I will give you a tip on how to save some money if you want to try several of the Glenmorangie Expressions. And, well, let's not waste any time. Let me get to the first bottle, which is the Glenmorangie Barrel Select Release, which is a 12-year Malaga cask finish. Age obviously 12 years, that's what it says on the bottle. It's a 47.3% ABV. It is non-chill filtered, which is wonderful. Coloring on the Glenmorangie range is kind of unknown. I don't know which expressions are natural color and which have had a little bit of caramel coloring added. So let's just assume that maybe some of them do and maybe some of them don't. Now the price that I paid for this bottle was $80. That was quite a while ago. This is one of their small batch releases, so it's really not in circulation anymore. It's a first fill Malaga Dolce wine cask that they used to mature this, which is giving it a sweeter flavor, Dolce sweet. And I really don't remember what this tasted like. It's been a long time. So let me go ahead and grab a glass, pour some of this. Now this expression may be really hard to find, so don't be sad if you can't find it out there. Now what I like about their limited release expressions is that they tend to have really cool caskings and different flavors that you're going to get out of these special casks. And it's always nice to pick one of these up when I see them because they may not come around again, just like this one, which was bottled in August 2020. So very difficult to find right now probably. And it's a very nice, sweet finish. Oh, now I remember this one. I really enjoy this one. I like whiskeys that are lighter whiskeys and then have a subtle wine cask finish because I think the blending goes really well with those two. And this one right off the bat has lovely berry notes, very light, very sweet, very refreshing. Nothing heavy duty about this. The ABV is spot on for this one. Gives you a little bit of bite, but the finish is nice and long, and it's just overall a really pleasant expression. If I could replace it, I probably would. I think the only ones I'll find out there are probably on auctions or someplace like that, so I don't think I'll replace this one, only because I can't. But if I could, I would, because I really love the flavor of it. Got a few more here. Let's grab the next one. Second on the list is one of my favorites, the Quinta Ruban. This is a bottle that is always going to be replaced in my collection. It's a 14-year whiskey. It has a port cask finish, and I'm very fond of that, especially the way Glenmorangie does this. It's a beautiful expression. They used to have this as a 12-year, and I really like the 12-year, and then they changed it over to 14. You know, I don't remember if it was better than this or not. It's just different. But I do need a glass because I need to get this thing poured. As the name suggests, it's aged 14 years. The ABV is 46%. It is non-chill filtered, and it's priced pretty reasonably in stores, about $55, maybe a little less, a little more where you are. It's readily available, and it's a whiskey that will always be happy to recommend to anybody because it's just a beautiful expression. It's the kind of expression that Glenmorangie's really good at. And I'm always happy to replace this bottle without any tasting required because I've tasted this bottle a ton of times and I love the color. You can even see the difference in these two. Right away we've got a very light color And then you've got that little ruby color of the port cask, which comes through nicely in this very lovely expression. Where the Malaga cask is giving you more sweetness, this is going to give you a little more of the darker fruits, a little bit of raisins, a little bit of the plums, kind of a citrus finish that gives it a little bit more spice, a little more texture to it. I think I'd love to try this at a little higher ABV. I think it might be nice, but that's not an option, and so I will just enjoy it at the 46%. The balance here is between spice and fruit, where the Malaga was very sweet and dolce for sure. This is a combination of sweet and spice, and you kind of have a nice middle ground here of I get my sweetness, but it's not cloyingly sweet. All right, I could go on for days about this one, but we're going to set that aside so we can get to number 3. Number 3 is not a bottle that's near empty, but I still wanted to put it in this collection because we have a 12-year, a 14-year, and this is the Tribute, which is a 16-year release, and this is a travel edition, so it's a little more difficult to find, but it is also a 1-liter bottle, and that's a nice thing to have. Let me go ahead and pour it in a glass, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Now, I picked up this bottle of the Tribute in London Heathrow, travel exclusive as it is. It's hard to get in other places. It's aged in American oak casks, and it's a throwback to some of the early days of Glenmorangie, where they have a lightly peated side to this one, and that makes it very different from every other expression in their collection. And it definitely has that more malty, musty smell to it, and there's not a lot of sweetness on the nose. On the taste, the peat and smoke is really, really light. It's not an Isla peat, it's not an Isla smoke. You don't get a lot of harshness. It's still got that lightness of a Glenmorangie because it's their giraffe neck stills that give it that lightness, and that's across their whole expression range. Now, would I buy this one again? I don't know. It's $90 to $100 in travel editions that may or may not be around in stores. I did see them at Master Mall. You may be able to find other places. If you can get it for a good price, it may be worth it if you're looking for something very different in the Glenmorangie range. I haven't been going to it. I've been trying to drink it and get more of a feel for it. You can see I did make best efforts to like this whiskey, and it's not bad. It's just kind of in the middle of not peaty enough for me to be an Isla kick, and just not a lot of fruitiness on the other side to lift up the peatiness of it. So I'm not going to buy it again. Let me know if you like this particular expression, and if you've tried it, and if you're buying it more than once. All right, let's get on to number 3, which is the Nectar d'Or. This is another one of their core range expressions. It is a Sauterne cask finish, and it is going to be a sweeter whiskey like the Malaga cask. Let me get a glass. The Nectar d'Or is a non-age statement whiskey, 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, and the price is around $70 to $80. It's aged in ex-bourbon casks and then finished in the French Sauterne casks, which will give it a dessert-like sweetness to it. On the nose, it's very different than the Malaga and the Quinta Ruban. It has more vegetal notes and not as much sweetness. Sauterne is supposed to be a very expensive wine to produce, and it's a key part of the core expression because it's giving you another casking option that is more on the sweeter side. I'm getting a lot of spice, a lot of citrus. I'm getting some sweetness in there, and it's kind of like pears or apples, but it's a little taken over by the spice. I like this whiskey, and I do like to have a bottle around. I don't go to it much though. I had this one for quite a while. I think I did more tasting of this in comparison with others than I did actually just sitting down and having a dram of it at night. But I do think it's interesting, and I think it's worth your time and effort to at least try it, and I'll give you a way of doing that at the end. I have one more bottle that's almost empty, and the special bottle that I want to sign off with. So the 5th bottle is the Glenmorangie Allta. And Allta actually means wild. Let me get a glass and we'll talk more about it. The Allta is a non-age statement whiskey. It was released in 2019 and it is up there in ABV at 51.2%. It's non-chill filtered. I saw this at my local whiskey shop in San Francisco for $110. Your mileage may vary wildly on this because this may not be one of the expressions that's readily available because it is in their private edition series. This is musty. This is not sweet. This is giving me a lot of grass notes and a little bit of the vegetal notes. Like I'm getting a little citrus, but mostly it's the mustiness. And I do love the taste of this one. It's a lot of malted flavor to this. It definitely is a less sweet whiskey, but it is a flavorful whiskey. And when I first got it, I wasn't sure I loved it or not. And then after I sat with the bottle, which I am really near the end of this poor bottle, when I first started drinking it, I said, I kind of like it. And then the more I drank it, the more I really enjoyed it because it's not one of their sweeter expressions and it is still light. And it does have a lot of body to it. It does have a lot of variety of flavors in there. And I don't know if that has to do with the wild yeast or not, but that's what they're pushing. It's a little vanilla, it's a little caramel. It is just interesting, worthwhile. Yeah, spiciness, a little bit of the lighter fruits like apples, pears, some little bit of grape notes for me, and more citrus on the taste, but very malty, nice long finish. I really like the higher ABV. I really appreciate what they've done with this whiskey. And depending on what your availability is, I think this is a good one to try. If you tried a lot of the Glenmorangie expressions and you're looking for something a little out of ordinary on their list, this is a really cool whiskey. Unfortunately, it's not as available as the core range. So let me know in the comments whether you can get this or not and what price you're paying for it. If you've watched my channel a lot, you probably guessed this one. Let me go ahead and grab the box. It's a beast. It's the Glenmorangie Signet and one of my favorite all-time whiskeys. You can see how it's presented, how it's boxed. That has a nice little magnetic lock in it. It's just very nice. Even out of the box, it's a beautiful bottle. Really hard to photograph because it tends to not reflect light really well. And you can just see that darkness. The cool part about the Signet is it's inspired by espresso, so you're getting those coffee notes. It's a non-age statement whiskey that's 46% ABV, so it's non-chill filtered. And even though it's a non-age statement, this whiskey has some of their oldest whiskeys in it. I have been nursing this bottle since I got it, and now I just noticed it's more than halfway gone, which kind of makes me sad because it's not easy to get. And this bottle I paid $240 for, which honestly is not a lot of money for this particular expression. I think I saw that some of the casks that were put into this had whiskey 27, 28 years, maybe even more in it. So it's really a great whiskey for that price. I've seen some Japanese whiskeys that are 12 years and 14 years higher price than this, and I would certainly spend the money on the Signet way before I'd spend money on those. The nose is just chocolate, berries, and dark fruits. I just love the nose on this. I can pour a dram of the Signet and just sit there with the nose and be happy. I mean, I'm still gonna drink it, but the nose alone is just a beautiful expression. It's just so many different notes. If you've had the Signet, I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about it. Do you agree with me that it's a brilliant expression, or is it just okay for you? I mean, there's just so much there to enjoy. It is not overly sweet. It's more fruity on the nose than it is on the taste. There's a nice long finish, that espresso note that gets it for me. And I've been really into coffee and espresso more and more in the last few years. And the more I get into coffee, the more I appreciate the Signet. So if you like espresso, if you like dark chocolate, if you like those kind of flavor profiles, this is a gorgeous whiskey, and I highly recommend you find a way of getting a bottle of this, or at least find a friend that has it and get a taste of it. Okay, I promised you not only this extra taste of whiskey, but also a way to save some money and try several Glenmorangie expressions at one time. Glenmorangie sells a collector taster set that has 4 bottles in it, all 100 milliliters, which is a pretty decent size. You get a few tastes out of that. And it's their original, the La Santa, the Quinta Ruban, and the Nectar Dior. So you get their core range, a lot of variety in there, and it's $50 around me. So if you've ever tried their collector set, let me know in the comments. If you haven't, it's a great way to try a lot of different expressions and find out if any of those are your favorites. Well, that wraps it up for me. I can now finish these bottles without any guilt because I've got them on camera and I've enjoyed them with you. So if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give me a like. It really helps spread it around YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to me yet, I'd appreciate a subscription too. That would be really great. And until the next video, take care of yourself. Take care of those people around you. And cheers. Love it. Glenmorangie Barrel Select Reserve 12-year Malaga Cask finish wine. Whiskey. It's a whiskey. It's not a wine. It's their giraffe neck. It's their giraffe neck stills. It's their giraffe neck. I can't say it. I can't say giraffe neck. It's their giraffe neck skit. Son of a pop. Giraffe neck stills. There you go.